Okay, please stand for the pledge and remain standing for the prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father God, we know that you wish us to live together in unity and community. Help us as we tonight to speak about and discuss the things of our community, things to lift up our community, things to help us to move forward into the future. Lord, be with us, that your Holy Spirit guide our decisions and our talk tonight. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay, Jan, would you take the roll, please?
Dan Vinson, Bob Leahy,
Here.
Jim Hufford,
Here.
Tim Heiss,
Here.
Chad Spence.
Here.
Okay, everyone's reviewed the consent agenda. If there's no questions, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
First, have a second.
I'll second.
Scams, you
Just say all those in favor.
all those in favor, I forgot this. Yeah, all those in favor?
Aye.
All against the same? Okay, the mayor's not here this evening, as everyone can see. We'll move down to Jan. Do you have anything?
Yes, I do. The next meeting, we will be having a public hearing on the budget, and also that will be our first reading of the budget, and then the next one, we will be approving the budget. We really need everybody to be there. So I'll just remind you I think that's it, except for, in your council packet, there was a bill for the fire truck. If you saw that humongous bill. But I'm going to have to do an additional appropriation out of public safety in order to pay that. So I will have to, I'll bring it up when I do, you okay it, if you okay it, you'll okay it then when I do the additional appropriation. But I just wanted to make you aware of that. That's not going to be able to come out of the budget that we have right now. Other than that, that's all I have.
Okay, council members, Bob?
I don't have anything.
Jim?
Yeah, the only thing I had, you just answered.
Okay.
About the fire truck.
Fire truck?
I see the phone call.
Okay, Jan?
Not the moment.
Okay, Lonnie?
Yes, had a field check meeting with NDOT today in town, and they're speaking about the projects, paving of 227 and paving of 28, and the paving of 28 down Columbia Street here, and actually to Deerfield. That's two separate projects, but they'll be doing them simultaneously. They also, as we talked before, they wanted to do that project, they want to do our sidewalk project in concert with their paving project, which was great for us because they'll take care of all the inspection. When I met with today, Michelle Lovell said that they had moved that from 2020 to, they want the letting date to be this coming July. So Midwestern Engineering thinks they'll have the right-of-way issues and whatever worked out by then. So hopefully we'll be ready when they're ready.
It seems like that thing's been put off and put off and put off. It's about time to get it done.
Yeah, well, they've actually moved it up, right?
Yeah, they're moving, back a year. So, but hopefully we'll have, we have to deal with that because NDOT hadn't recorded the right-of-ways up there. So.
You said July, would they actually do work in July?
No, it was let in July, but then it would probably.
If they do the sidewalk project, is the Plum Street thing still involved in that?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, Plum Street, sidewalk on Plum Street, that
No,
was supposed to be
no,
involved in that. I don't even know if it was or not.
No, not in this case. No.
Yep.
But we're still looking at that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was talking about some being involved.
I think that.
The right-of-ways on that, are those concentrated in a particular area, or are they?
Yeah, they're most of them are out, run for.
Right, okay. I figured that.
We gotta get something done. I seen somebody going out there the other day on an electric wheelchair, driving out there around the curve, and something, we're gonna have a bad accident if we don't get something done.
Well, with the traffic patterns there and mix that with pedestrians, that gets a real hazard.
Yeah.
Bad situation. Okay. Don't have any presenters on the agenda, but Randy Abel would like to speak about the sign ordinance, I believe, and we'll put him in on the top of old business here. Randy?
Basically, the APC has recommended a new sign ordinance for the county, and it was read by unanimous vote. I know there's been some confusion on it, so I came here tonight to give you a few ideas of what the thinking is on the writing of that. Part of writing the ordinances, when we're doing that in our office, what we found in the past is sometimes it's easier to write an ordinance more restrictive than less, but it's a whole lot easier to go the other way, to make it less restrictive later. And we found out with our animal ordinance, so you allow a horse on 1 acre, but if you tell the person you're going to allow 2 horses, then come back and say, which horse you want to get rid of? It's only 1 now. It doesn't work very good. So basically, when you're looking at this sign ordinance, some of that same thinking goes into it. So make it a little more restrictive, and then you can always go the other way later. And in that same thought pattern, when something is more restrictive, a person can always come to our department, and apply for a variance. And so that then goes before the BZA, and you actually have a couple members on your council that sit on that BZA. It's a 7-member panel, and that gives everybody a chance to weigh in. So anybody on the council, anybody in town, any businessman can come in and voice your opinion on any variance that's done at the BZA. So if you think this sign ordinance is a little restrictive, don't let that concern you right now, because technically anything can go for a variance, and you would have to say on as a city whether or not you think something's appropriate or not in your town. And in that thought too, it's pretty hard to write an ordinance that covers everybody, because what you may like in your town and want, Winchester, Farmland, Parker City may not agree. So to make it more restrictive and then allow a variance hearing, then makes it more, or makes it less unique to each individual town, and makes it more open to all towns. Another thing to think about is, I know some people had questions about the right-of-way. I've heard people ask that. Well, the BZA and the area planning department can't regulate anything in the right-of-way. So if there's signs in the right-of-way, don't come to us complaining, because we can't do anything about it. So it's just like building permits. We've even had people come get building permits, and the town says, I don't care if they build that garage in our right-of-way. And they're like, no, you don't understand. We can't give you a permit to do that. It's not your property, you can't do it. So right-of-ways are definitely out. So what was wrong with the old ordinance, and I guess everybody understands that the county's been taken to court by the ACLU for the defaults they see in that ordinance. The old ordinance listed uses as such things as construction signs, real estate, home occupation, things like that. It listed uses. So it's my understanding that the Supreme Court has said if you have to read the sign to see if it's permitted, it's not constitutional. So if I have to go read that sign in the yard and say, it's a real estate sign, it's okay. Can't do that. I just have to go up to the sign and say, it's a 2x2 sign sitting in the yard, 5 feet from the right-of-way, it's okay. So what this ordinance basically does is switches signs from use to developmental standards. So it's a little tricky doing that, taking it from the old ordinance to the new thing. And so the lady that we've hired, Debbie Lazier, I think she did a very good job at it. If you actually take the old ordinance and stick it side by side and start comparing sign sizes, locations, setbacks, heights, things that are actually developmental standards, she's done a very good job at translating that. So if you look at the new ordinance and say, I can't put this sign in there anymore, I don't like it. Chances are, you couldn't put it there in the old ordinance either. You know, and that's a can of worms I don't want to open. Basically, it's grandfathered now, it's going to stay. All right? We don't want to go back and try to change everything. So, second thing I might tell you also is that we are going to shortly, hopefully before the first of the year, be working on a developmental ordinance. And that's going to take every bit of this zoning ordinance and the subdivision ordinance, combine them together into a developmental ordinance. We have a steering committee set up for that. So you have a member on your council who's sitting on that steering committee. Once it goes through the steering committee, so you have an option at that time, chapter by chapter, to say, you know, I don't like that setback, or I don't like that requirement. You know, this is our once-in-a-lifetime opportunity here to change this ordinance to fit it like the county wants it. And I can tell you there's a lot of things in there I'd be willing to change. And I think you would be too. So that's going to be part of the steering committee to direct her to write those things in we want. We'll take them back to the APC, which again, you have 2 members sitting on the APC. So then it'll have to go through the APC and get their recommendations. And any time here it can go back for changes. So hopefully the APC members or your steering committee member will bring those to your council and say, look, here's what we're changing, here's what we're leaving the same. And then from that oversight, you give feedback to either your steering committee member or your council members that are on the APC. And through that way, hopefully everything gets smoothly done and so it'll be approved by all the cities and councils and you know, the commissioners and everybody. So if you don't think this sign ordinance is perfect, remember that in just a few months we can change that. But we can't change it to the point where the ACLU is going to say, hey, you can't do those use changes. It has to be, you know, developmental standards. It has to be elected developmental standards. So,
If you would, explain to them why about the advertising off premise. In other words, like if you have a business off your property.
Yeah, there are some things that are more restrictive. One of those is the part that's been brought up to me on the new ordinance, and I don't know, you probably don't have it in front of you tonight, but if you look under any heading actually on commercial, industrial, or residential, it says down here on the bullet point, limitations, located only on the same water parcel as the use or business. So basically, it's limiting like billboard signs or commercial signs to be on the commercial property. Now, if they want to put them somewhere else, it goes to a variance. So if you don't want a billboard down every commercial lot down Columbia Street, which is allowed now, this will make it go to a variance. Then the businessman, the council, the neighbor who has to look at it, has the option to go to that meeting and say, here's what I think. I don't want a light shining in my window. Can you just put it up with no light? Or, I don't like it's too big. So, you know, I know you've done a lot on stellar communities in the past year. You know, what's your vision of stellar community may not be the next guy's. And so, you don't want to just say a billboard on every corner down Commercial, down Columbia and Chestnut. At least I don't think you do. I think you want to have some oversight to where you say, that doesn't fit our community plan. That's not what we envision for our community. And so there are some restrictions in here like that, but that is more restrictive than the old one. And I think it's a good restriction. I met people say, oh, I don't like that. And I've met other people say, oh, you know, after thinking about it, oversight's not a bad thing. Not at all.
Is that, how does that play in with some of the signs that have been placed on buildings advertising we have a couple in town here, and then you have in Winchester, like, I think.
Yeah, on the wall,
On
here
the
on the
wall,
side.
yeah. Does that, how does that apply? Does that play into that, or is it?
Technically now, those are grandfathered.
Well, yeah, I mean, as far as new, yeah. That's what-
New, you'd have to have a variance.
You'd have to have a variance, yeah.
Unless it met the size of a wall sign. So if it met the requirements in this commercial, I'm assuming you're talking about commercial.
Yeah, yeah.
So, commercial wall sign here is 10 square foot, 15 foot above the curb level. In the old one, it was 20% of the building. So it's different. But there's nothing that says you can't go get a variance for 20% of the building.
Yeah, but the variance procedure is not going to be that.
And if it's a plain mural that has no technical advertising on it, then those go straight back to the cities. And it goes back to you, and you can say, do I want that downtown? And maybe it's a nice mural of a railroad track and, of the old Union City. You may be good with that. So that comes back to the cities for just straight murals. Yeah.
And just to stress it even this could be modified if the steering committee and the area
Yes.
planning decided that, no, we'd like to change some things. That could be,
Yeah.
that's addressable in that too.
Sure, absolutely. And we found in the past that we've had a lot of parts of our ordinance that we have a variance on over and over and over again. And after a while, you just say, you know what, we're going to amend it and get rid of this because it always passes. Nobody objects to it. So we're going to amend the ordinance and just allow it. And so that could be another thing that we find in the future if we have a certain point that we keep having variance hearings and there's never an issue with it, and that's something we would probably amend and just put into the ordinance.
We might tell them about the electronic signs too, since we're getting a few of those around town.
Yeah, most of those have to go through a variance. They're lit.
Yeah.
Especially if they're flashing or have motion to them. If it's just a sign that reads off like time, temperature, and stuff like that, that's exempt from the ordinance. So things like that are allowed.
Also, you might clear it up with them about, like with the KISS TV, the advertising on there. That is off premise, but that's not regulated.
Nothing
to
we
us.
do.
Right.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Well, we've had this on the agenda and in the past. We don't today, but if council, if anybody wants to take any action, feel free at this point. If we're through discussion. If anybody has any. We didn't have questions or make or motions.
What are we motioning for?
Well, and we've had this up, so if there's a motion to approve, we can do that now, or we can wait until council approves.
It's not on the agenda, is it?
As I say,
Not on the agenda, but I don't know if we can.
Unless this is an emergency, I'd like a wider discussion of that and revisit the actual verbiage that you're considering.
Is there anybody out there who's got questions for Randy that can answer it now?
Yeah, I'd like that. I hear it.
oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'd like a public hearing on it where people, once it's explained to them, either agree or disagree with it. Because this is going to affect a number of people, businesses in particular.
Well, we can. With that, I think we could probably continue it to the agenda on the next meeting.
I think that you will find that this in many ways is less restrictive than the old one. So not passing is actually going to be more restrictive to the businesses. It actually allows 2 and 3 signs in places where only one was allowed to pass. And, technically, the reason they're wanting this passed as quick as they can is because we're paying attorney fees in Indianapolis to fight the ACLU.
To that point, could you give us the background on how essentially, I presume it's the county commissioners somehow obligated the taxpayers of all of Randolph County to be paying these attorneys, when it sounds like the issue was a freedom of speech thing, and it's like it went over the county commissioner's head and they were trying to target somebody, and now the ACLU came back and said now everybody's got to obey new rules and regulations. So could you give me a little background on the freedom of speech issue?
I'm not an attorney. Maybe Ryan can give you a better answer to that, but I believe they found the ordinance of the county to be unconstitutional, and that's why the ACLU took it
A
up.
court of law found that?
ACLU has implied that in their lawsuit. They're litigating.
Yeah. But has there been a court decision?
Yes, there has been a Supreme Court decision, and that's why it's
They're
pretty much
citing,
a deal.
they're citing.
They're saying you
Supreme Court
can't
decision, so.
regulate uses. You can't read the sign to see if it's legal.
So why not just
That's
let
a
the lady,
freedom of speech.
why not just let the lady have her sign and be done with
Well, after,
Because it's still unconstitutional. The next person could come up and sue.
that doesn't
it? I
change.
thought it wasn't done.
They don't
That's the issue.
care necessarily about just her. They care about the ordinance being changed for everyone.
But it became a moot point once the commissioners would simply back off. It seems to me that they're hard.
Only in
It's a
that,
little
only
late
in that
to
instance.
Once the case has been filed, there's no going back. ACL will not go back until this ordinance is changed. They made that clear.
Where do I find the information about this whole case? I mean, do you have the
I
case
don't
number?
remember. William, did Jason talk to you, Ryan?
No,
Okay.
I know very little about it. I mean, it sounds like it was based on the content of the sign.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't based on the content of the sign. It was based on the fact that we do not allow any sign like that except for commercial, real estate, what I would call a quasi-commercial sign. So if you got real estate, you're leasing, you have a home occupation, something like that that's considered quasi-commercial, we allowed that in residential. We didn't allow any other signs. To them, that's not constitutional, because if we allow a 2x2 realtor sign, we should allow a 2x2 sign of your choosing anywhere you want in.
I guess what
parameters.
I was meaning was that ACLU was trying to say that this person was being targeted based on content. That's what they're alleging, right?
No.
No.
I don't believe so. I may be wrong, but I don't believe so.
I've not read
I believe it's because there's no signs allowed other than those quasi-commercial signs. So it wasn't by content. We didn't read the sign. We don't care what the sign says. It's not content. It's just the fact that they're not allowed a sign equal to those quasi-commercial signs and put on there anything they want to say. We don't care what it says. It's that the sign wasn't allowed. So that's the part of the ordinance they want changed from use regulated to basically developmental
It was a
stuff.
political
think what
sign
happened-
attacking the mayor, and
It
the
had nothing to
reaction.
do with it, though.
I don't believe that.
Well, it didn't.
Well, what happened, what I think happened really is that when that sign came up, okay, and they came to the county because the county handles the ordinance on this. They went to her and said it's illegal under county ordinance. Well, when she went to the ACLU, they looked at that and they went and looked at the county ordinances. Said, well, the ordinances are what's illegal,
Not the sign.
not the sign, but the ordinance is
Any of
illegal,
that
and that's what they
until
took the case on.
An individual down the road came in, signed a complaint, and we have to react on that. So I had to look at my ordinance and say, no, a 4x4 sign in the yard is not allowed. No matter what it says on it, I didn't care what it said. Didn't matter to me.
And
A
that's
4x4 sign was not allowed in a yard.
Yeah.
That's by ordinance.
How would any political signs at all be illegal?
Because they're allowed by state statute, 60 days before and 16 days after, they're allowed from the state. Yeah.
What about other political expressions that might be on a banner, that might be on,
Again,
little tiny
you're
sign.
going to use standards. We do not go by use standards anymore. You want a political
Well, that's-
speech, you want anything, you can put if a banner is allowed, you can put anything you want on it. I can't look at what's on it. I'm not allowed. The only thing I can look what's on it is within the vicinity.
And I think
that's
and
controlled
I think
by
this is one of the
federal
places where you're
government.
getting into where the new ordinance is likely less restrictive.
Actually, it is.
The new ordinance is less restrictive than the old because in the violation was not the way the ordinance was used to address the sign was not based on the content. The content might have been the catalyst to drive somebody to make a complaint, but the actual violation was not based on the content. It was the use that's what's deemed unconstitutional.
The only thing in our ordinance today that has anything to do with what's on the sign, and I'm sure that's by either federal or state statute, is it can't, a obscene sign is forbidden.
Yeah, this ordinance only is concerned
Anything
with
else on there, we
the
don't
placing
agree.
of the sign and the size of the sign. What's on the sign, we have nothing to do with. But there's other laws that might govern what's put on the sign. If it's if it's indecent or insane, something really stupid, it comes under other laws,
Numerically, in terms of the number of signs that you can have on your yard, is that going up or down with the new regs?
I don't think anything's changed. She pretty much went from one ordinance to the other and just changed the developmental standards. And it depends on what areas you're talking about. But let me take one for instance here. So let me see what she did in residential. That looked like that just stayed the same. For a wall sign, freestanding sign, you're permitted 2. So you're permitted 1 freestanding, 1 wall. So I don't think that's really changed.
Maybe to cut to the chase, is the current ordinance, the one that's in effect, is that posted on the website?
Yes,
on your
it's in our
website?
unified zoning.
And so if I have the copy of the proposed ordinance, I can do a word for word comparison.
You sure could.
Got
But
it.
I think what you'll find is it's just a flipping over to developmental standards as opposed to use standards. So it's not going to affect businesses at all, I don't think. And like I said, you can always come and get a variance. So if you think it's more restrictive and it's harming your business, you need to come in and get a variance. The point is, I think it'll be far better for businesses. So if you have a business sitting down here in town, you have no say on that billboard. That sign can sit there and say, go by the business in Union City and drive to Ansonia or drive to Greenville. We got businesses there better than Union City. Drive on through town. You have no control over the billboards that go in your town. None.
And you're proposing that we should?
I'm proposing that you probably want to in a stellar community if you don't want to look like McGalliard.
But yours is just placement. All you're talking about.
All we're talking about is
Placement,
size.
not what it says or anything, but placement.
Placement,
But
size,
you were talking about
and
content.
number.
You were just suggesting content.
I will, because you can't tell me what they're going to put on that billboard. And who in the town is going to put on a billboard, stop at my business 100 feet from here? They're not going to do that. They're going to
Right
say,
here on the corner, they got
Yeah,
a sign.
they got
That
signs.
says that, yeah.
maybe a directional one. But I also know of signs down here in town and a billboard that say go to Ansonia.
Sure.
For the same businesses that are here in town. So when you stick up a billboard, you can't tell the guy what to put on it. But you can kind of get a little foresight here. If you're a businessman, do I want that billboard beside my business with the potential, who's going to rent it? It's right by my business. I don't want to rent it. I got my own commercial sign on premise that's legal. Somebody could take that billboard, go down the road. Don't come to this business, go down the road. So if I'm a businessman, I want some oversight on where these billboards are going. If you
The
want to put
placement argument is what you're making now.
if I'm a businessman, yes.
Well, I move that, well, not move, I just suggest that we put this on the next meeting's agenda so that everybody has full disclosure of what we're discussing and everybody, the general public can obtain copies of the proposed ordinance.
The old ordinance is on our website for Randolph County and Erie Planning. It's under the UZO. And
I thought I got a copy of it. I could get to it.
The new ordinance, we've received the new ordinance.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
passed
if
back.
anybody needs it
If
again.
anybody
let me
needs it,
know.
we got it.
So there's a copy of the new ordinance here. There's also
Yes.
one in our
Yes.
office,
Yeah.
if anybody wants to look at it. And if you want to, I'll try to see if they put it on our website. And I'm not sure it's not already there, but
Okay.
I hate to say it is and it's not. I better check. Hand it over.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate it very much.
If you have any more questions, feel free to call, email, or anything.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, don't think we have anybody here for chamber updates. Ryan? Anything for us? Okay, new business, manufactured home ordinance first reading. And for some reason, I did not put that in front of me. We had some
Local ordinance.
changes on that. I think, Bonnie, I don't know if you want to address the couple things we've made changes on. For some reason, I didn't print that.
Yeah, there was a couple of items in there that referred to skirting, things that are normally
Yeah.
found with mobile homes. So those were taken out.
Those references were taken out, and I think the only thing that was then there was a reference to foundation as to basically following area planning's ordinance on the letter F of section 1.2, foundation, a concrete perimeter foundation is required for any modular home installation that meets or exceeds the current requirements for conventional homes, which the current requirements would be Randy's requirements. So, and this is and then the only other language that was changed from what we had was the removal of the skirting or skirting references.
So site orientation, that would also address when you're going down a neighborhood and a modular home is built what looks to be sideways. That would be,
Placement, that should be in there, really.
yeah, so that would be an offense to,
And it is.
And that's one of the major
Placement.
catalysts for this in the first place was site orientation.
Where is that placement in the
Where is that? That's
D is what I was referencing.
D on section 1.2.
Yeah.
D. The modular homes shall be placed on lots in a manner compatible with and reasonably similar in orientation to other structures in the area, which so it leaves a little bit of leeway, but we've had some long, almost, I don't know how you describe the style.
Some put lengthwise on a narrow lot.
That are lengthways on a narrow lot, and manufactured home industry does have what they refer to as narrow lot homes. And
Right, it's got the front door at the front.
have the front door at the end and
Yeah.
such. And we've run into a couple of issues with homes where they weren't put in that orientation and caused other problems down the road.
Now, this just concerns modular homes, no, manufactured homes like house trailers.
Yeah, it would be.
But all house trailers have to be.
That's all separate, right?
Mobile home park
Right.
by another different ordinance.
And if there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept ordinance 2018-11, mobile home ordinance first reading by title only.
We have a first, we have a second.
I would second his motion.
Jan, would you take the roll call vote?
Bob Leahy?
Yes.
Jim Hufford?
Yeah.
Tim Heiss?
Yes.
Chad Spence?
Yes.
Okay, mausoleum proposal, nothing new in that. The Union City, Ohio water purchase agreement. Was, I didn't print that.
I've had that too, if I can just
And,
get the screen pulled up. Here we
I
go.
believe
Yeah.
the main change is the.
I've got it.
Dan's got,
Yeah.
a little bit of an increase. It was.
Yeah, but I have, the original one said, would increase by the COLA, but no more than 5%.
Mm-hmm.
That no more than 5% is in there nowhere. So I don't know if that's something that needs to stay in, if you want it to stay in or not. Like, should it say no less than 2%, but no more than 5% increase?
Just not less than 2%.
Not less than.
That's
That's
all
what
we
it
said,
says.
was
It
not
shall never
less-
be less than 2%.
Right.
But the original said
More
that
than 5%.
To protect
not
them.
more than 5% to protect the Ohio side. So
Right.
that's no longer in there. So if the COLA would be more than 5%, there's nothing in there
To help them.
to help them. So I'm saying, I'm just wondering if you want it back in there. That's all I'm pointing out. Or if the Ohio side would want it back in
Why
there.
does it say really?
That's
Their
good.
call.
Yeah, I mean, we could just, but I guess, yeah, you're right, it's their call. We give it to them, they can read it, but
Well, I mean, I don't want to make it appear as if we're trying to pull the wool over their eyes. It depends on what they're comfortable with. You know, we can pass it, but if they're not going to be in agreement.
I don't.
Have they got a copy of this?
no, they haven't gotten one yet.
Should we let them look it over first before we pass?
That's probably a good idea.
Or you could just act in good faith and say not to exceed 5%.
We're not trying.
I say we can do it. We can pass it with an amendment. If we want.
We can amend it, and you know, we've this is the contract as we've had it till now. We've had no complaints with this, so I don't really have a problem with holding it to the 5% at this point. But entertain a motion by anyone that.
Well, then I move that we approve the water purchase agreement as presented with the amendment of not to exceed 5%, as previously stated on previous contracts.
So to clarify, it'd be the wording would be, it is further agreed the annual rate increase shall never be less than 2% and never exceed more than 5%. UCL shall have the right, but not the obligation to continue with this agreement after negotiation. That would be proper wording on that at this point. Okay, we have a first.
I'll second. Whoever. One.
Okay. Have a first and a second. Jamie, will you take the roll call vote?
Bob Leahy?
Yes.
Jim Hufford?
Yes.
Tim Heiss?
Yes.
Chad Spence?
Yes.
Okay. School resource officer, Kobe, I assume you're going to speak on this?
Hey, Jan is going to speak more.
I'm not speaking.
I think she's already handed out the memorandum of understanding to all you guys, all you. As you go through it, you'll see the first page kind of discusses a little bit about payment and how that's going to go down. So I can answer any questions on that if you guys would like. It's actually turned out to be a pretty good deal for the city, especially in the first year. We based it on first class.
We based this year on an introduction, or whatever.
The first year is
Probationary,
based
that's
on a
the word.
probationary officer pay, which is what all officers when they first start out. And just to make sure you guys understand this, this person is a police officer for the city of Union City, and he will work 190 days out of the school. After that, he will come in and work the summertime, or when normally teachers would be off. Of course, he'll be allotted his vacation time and things like that. But other than that, he'll alleviate some overtime issues or what have you for vacations and times off and things like that. And it's all stated in this memorandum. And this isn't a new memorandum. It's just been added to as far as what the payment is and how all that went down between the school and them getting the grant. I mean, it went fairly well, I thought. We didn't really have any issues as we went through each meeting. It was just a matter of how to pay who, when to pay it, and all that kind of stuff. We want to make sure all of our ducks were in a row. And that's where we're at today. So I'm here to entertain any questions or concerns you guys might have at this moment for the MOU.
See, and I've had a little bit. It's been a little bit since I've read that. And when you talk about the 190 days, then so does that leave us some time with the vacation days during the school year? How's the such as Christmas break?
Yes, we'll get him during
spring break,
that kind of stuff.
fall break.
The first year, of course, is going to be just kind of a filling out type phase, but they won't have him, so we will. We'll get to use him during that. When he's not at the school, that 190 days is school time. It is time that he'll be inside the school. It further states in here that even if he takes off, i.e. sick, something happens, we put Bill Bradbury right back in there. There's never, the 190 days is always covered, whether it be by the new officer or somebody else with the same qualifications.
Also, this is a year-by-year contract.
That is one of the things. We did hire a fella, and I will be emailing all of you his application. When we went through the process, we invited all the school officials over, and we actually had 2 vice principals in the interviews with us. Because, of course, you don't hire just for qualifications, you hire for fit, plus the qualifications. We had 7 individuals that applied and went through the process, and actually went through the interview process, and it was determined that this person would be the best qualified candidate at this time. So the person we chose actually works for a juvenile facility in Richmond currently, and he is actually in the leadership role there. So his name is Cody Dudley, just to throw it out there. Forgot that part. But anyways, he's been married about 6 years. He's about low 30s age, somewhere in there. Really good individual. He connects well with kids, which was real important. Some of the questions that teachers asked, I never would have thought of asking, which is why it was a good idea to have him in there in the first place. But he knows how to deal with kids and how to, all that kind of good stuff. So I think it's going to be an A+ effort getting him in there.
It's a shame that this has to be a subject matter for me nowadays, but at the same time, it's a blessing that we have the ability to have this.
Well, I think in the media as a whole, and as folks out there look at it more on the safety aspect, there's more to it than that because of what we've done in Union City, and we're proud of what we've done in Union City in the aspect that we're educating also. We're not, and it's not just about safety. It's about things that can help them when they get out of school. We're not. This officer is not just in there roaming the halls. He'll be, and by the MOU, he'll be teaching classes. He'll be in there, teaching about different subject matters and things like that. So it's not just somebody at the front door checking for, big pockets and guns. That's part of it, don't get me wrong. But a lot of it, too, is interacting and being a part of the school itself. So there's a lot more to it than that safety aspect, even though that is a big part. And again, I'll say it again, Union City led the way. We started out with the SRO in Randolph County with Michael Neal, the retired officer who gave up his time and just went out there on park days. And then that moved into Bill Bradbury being out there. And from there, we started teaching a criminal justice class. And then from there, other schools were asking how we were doing it. And, all kinds of things just kind of, it blossomed from there. So then now the school has stepped up and gotten the grant and made it easier on the police department and alleviated some of our issues that we had with personnel and manpower. Any questions or? It's pretty spelled out on the MOU. Like I said, the only thing changed in here from the 4 or 5 years that we've been doing it are the numbers and the fact that it is a year by year because we don't have an open position for a ninth officer. That's not what we're trying to do. This is strictly to get an SRO.
This individual then has to attend the academy.
This particular, Mr. Dudley does have to attend the academy. He also has to go through a school resource officer class, which is roughly a week long. But we plan on trying to get him in the academy through the summer mostly, so that he's still in the school. So this first year it'll be tight on the schedule.
No, what I was wondering is if you're going to try to get him in the academy for summer.
Yeah, and just like any other officer, we have a year from his hire date to get him through the academy.
Right. So that should work out.
Yeah.
What's the length of the academy now?
4 months. So basically 16 weeks.
Used to be
12 weeks. It was 12 weeks when I went in 2000.
I knew they did quite a lot. Probably for good reason.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any questions or anything? No. All right.
Appreciate this.
Yep.
Thank
Good
you.
job, Chief.
Yeah, great work.
Okay, ordinance 2018-12, alcohol ordinance, first reading. This is in reference to alcohol permits at Artisan Park. I need to,
The state statute changed, and in order for us to have any events like at Artisan Park, for an alcohol permit there, then we would have to have a separate public hearing for every alcohol permit. Unless we pass an ordinance like this. And this one was based on one that was passed by Portland, Indiana. So, we were contacted by the state board of excise and said, you're either going to need to do this or you're going to need to do this, and they knew we had a permit coming up, so.
yeah,
So
we're
that's-
better off doing this one.
Yeah,
This-
that's kind of the reason we did that.
They don't require a public hearing for this.
What's that?
Those ordinance, they do not
Yeah.
require a public hearing, but they do if we just do it for each event. It makes sense.
Well, it's just a state law change.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just,
Yeah, that's a state.
Do we need to read this complete ordinance
This is not very long.
Yeah. Okay. I'll go ahead and read it here just to make it clear. Whereas the Common Council of Union City, Indiana is the governing body of Union City, Indiana, or Union City, and whereas the Common Council makes the exception for alcoholic beverages at approved hosted events at the Artisan Amphitheater Park in accordance with rules and regulations of the Board of Public Works and Safety, and whereas the person required to serve alcoholic beverages shall obtain a permit from Indiana Alcohol, Tobacco and Tobacco Commission, and whereas it is the intent of the Common Council to accept approved alcoholic beverage sales permit exceptions, and now therefore be it ordained by the Common Council of the City of Union City, State of Indiana, to approve alcoholic beverage permit exceptions issued by the Indiana Alcohol and Tobacco Commission. Pretty straightforward, so does give oversight by the Board of Works. So. I'll entertain a motion if there are no further questions.
go ahead.
I move that we adopt ordinance number 2018-12 on the first reading.
We have a first, we have a second.
I'll second.
Jan, did you take the roll call vote?
Bob Leahy,
Yes.
Jim Hufford,
Yes.
Tim Heiss.
Yes.
Chad Spence.
Yes.
Okay. You want to suspend the rules? Or
Well,
want to-
we have the arson
Yeah.
thing coming up before.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we suspend the rules of the ordinance 2018-12.
We have a first, we have a second.
I'll second.
Jan, did you take a roll call vote?
Bob Leahy,
Yes.
Jim Hufford.
Yeah.
Tim Heiss.
Yes.
Chad Spence.
Yes.
Okay. I entertain a motion for the second reading of 2018-12.
Go ahead, Jim.
We accept orders 2018-12 alcohol ordinance was second reading.
We have a first, we have a second.
I'll second his.
Okay, Jan, would you take a roll call vote?
Bob Leahy.
Yes.
Jim Hufford.
Yes.
Tim Heiss.
Yes.
Chad Spence.
Yes.
Okay. Now, ordinance 2018-13 sidewalk ordinance amendment, first reading. And we have this, read this, ordinance to amend Chapter 95 of the ordinances of Union City, or City of Union City, whereas the City Council desires to repeal Chapter 95, Section 32 of codified ordinances of City of Union City, and whereas City Council further desires to amend Chapter 95, Section 28 and 29, now be it ordained that Chapter 95, Section 28, subsection D and E shall be removed. All other subsections of said section remain unchanged, and that Chapter 95, Section 29, subsection F shall be repealed, and all other subsections of said section to remain unchanged. And whereas the following language shall be added to Chapter 95, Section 28. D, an explanation that the City of Union City may, in its discretion, remove and dispose of existing sidewalk to assist in the replacement of such unsafe sidewalk at no cost. E, the statement that if the person acknowledges responsibility for an unsafe sidewalk as defined above and applies for the opportunity to have the City of Union City remove the existing sidewalk, all other sections of the chapter to remain unchanged. And with a lot of information, or not a lot of information in there otherwise, Monty, do you want to talk about that, or Ryan? I'm not sure.
That's just much that allows the city to go in on sidewalk replacement and to offer the homeowner that we would take out the old sidewalk and dispose of same, which would be a significant amount towards replacing the sidewalk. That way the homeowner would only have to, resident would only have to have the concrete poured.
And do we have a time frame to address that if the sidewalk is ripped down? I don't have the other part of this
Yeah,
ordinance.
that's what we had discussion about what our time frame would be as far as, well, I think we were talking about the time frame of, from the time if it's an ordinance violation to the time it would be addressed for replacement.
Okay.
The actual tearing out and replacement, it needs, I think,
Would be dictated by when they're
dictated by when the contractor was.
Okay, that makes sense.
Now, they're gonna make sure that the homeowner is going to put cement down before we go there and tear it out, and it just lays there for
Yeah, I think that's.
all the way, no sidewalk
Well,
at
yeah,
all.
I think that's where E comes in, with the acknowledge responsibility and that they'll be willing to.
I don't know if we need to spell that out any clearer on that there needs to be basically a
Time limit?
under contract
Yeah.
to maybe that.
I think we ought to have a contract from whoever's gonna be putting the sidewalk in before
Well,
we,
that's the
before we actually
obligation.
tear out.
Now, I believe what we're repealing is the 50/50
Yeah, that
program
fund.
that's not been utilized.
Jan, you are so on that. I didn't think I had a copy of this. You had the whole thing right here in front of you.
Yeah.
I'm so
She
sorry.
handed this out.
I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
it's like right in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lord, big red truck. $30-day period. There's section B under 95.31. It says, in the event that the property owner fails to correct the unsafe sidewalk within the time designated in the notice, or an extended time granted by the city manager, the owner may be fined in an amount of $25 to $100 per day for each day following the expiration of the 30-day period, or the extended period granted to the property owner that the unsafe condition continues.
That's on the notice of violation, though, right?
Yeah.
Right, correct. Okay. So that kind of, that somewhat effectively answers that.
And then we have a sidewalk specification that has to be followed.
Right, yeah, which is also good to note, because that way you say, even with the street or anything. Okay. You guys have any thoughts or questions?
I'd like to see a lot of these sidewalks repaired.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely some unsafety on those for sure. I move that we adopt ordinance number 2018-13, which is the ordinance to amend Chapter 95, the ordinances of the City of Union City on first reading.
We have a first, we have a second.
I'll second.
Jan, would you take a roll call vote?
Bob Leahy?
Yes.
Jim Hufford?
Yes.
Tim Heiss?
Yes.
Chad Spence?
Yes.
Okay. Ordinance 2018-14, rental ordinance amendment, first reading. And there again, I'm not very well prepared today.
This rental ordinance amendment, we talked about it before. The date for landlords to register
Oh, yes.
deadline was July 1st. Well, that has already passed. We were making it October 1st. That's what this is about, but there was also an issue of proof of insurance, which is not addressed in this amendment.
This is specifically to address the date.
Yeah, the date and the date only in this one, this amendment, which since the date's already gone by, I want to put a notice out that says they need to register if you're a landlord. So I don't know that we want to push that date back anymore. It's already been pushed back.
Yeah.
I mean, to get the show on the road, I guess. But the insurance issue,
Ryan's working on that.
Ryan's working on that.
Yeah, so through that, Ryan,
Any questions you got?
Do you want this so you can read it, Tim?
Whereas the Common Council of the City of Union City desires to amend Title 15, Chapter 158 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Union City, Indiana, now therefore be it ordained the Common Council of the City of Union City as follows. Title 15, Chapter 158, Section 4, Subsection E, shall be amended to read the following: initial registration. All current owners shall submit an initial registration form and a registration fee for any and all existing rental units by October 1st, 2018. Thereafter, any owner shall have 30 days from obtaining ownership in a rental unit and or a rental or leasing a rental unit to register that rental unit with the town and submit to registration fee. And whereas all other parts of the chapter remain the same. So,
You three, you guys all are landlords, are you?
I'm not anymore.
he's not.
Oh, you're not anymore. Okay.
I-
Well, it affects you guys. You both more than I own anything. So how do you?
Well, the only, I want to get on with this. The only thing that we've not, I don't know how much we haven't really pushed this up till now as far as that. And I don't know, I'll kind of defer to Jan a little bit on which would be better to take a kickoff date of October 1st and go from there, or leave it as is and say, okay, this is in place now, because we don't really have a real clear mechanism of how much exception we're going to give initially on this. I can't remember that reading at the penalty phase of not registering, and we've not really felt, I don't think we've had anybody that we wanted to initially get draconian and all this, so we're going to get encouraged, try to get everybody registered, but acknowledging it's going to take a little time to get the word out and get everybody contacted. But, like I say, I defer to personally, I'll defer to Jan on what she feels like.
Well, I guess probably what we should have done is, well, we should give them an end date by when they should
Yeah.
register, but we should put a notice out and then, I was gonna put it on the back of the bills, and it has been in the paper. But it was in the paper a while ago, on a different date, and we did get some of them to come in, but not very many. But I think it's time that, put a notice out, and if they don't, then we'll put letters out or something, but before the deadline date, in order to do, like, some of them not slide by, but others, because I
Right,
think there is
yeah.
And right now, we're past what the original date
Right,
was.
yeah.
So we can't really do anything to anybody right now.
Well, and that's what my feeling is, somewhat, is that before we can do anything to anybody, we need, if we extend this to October 1st, then we can treat everybody about basically the same by doing that. As I say, I don't want to put it off any further than that, certainly.
Well,
I think September 1st is a little bit,
September 1st would be too quick.
Be a little too
to
quick.
do. The October 1st would probably even be pushing it, but,
Well.
maybe, because by the time I put it on the bill, and even if, I probably should put it in the paper again with the date, put it on the website, whatever, however you get the word out. And then, whoever hasn't responded then will send letters out. So I suppose we can do that by October 1st. I think.
For what it's worth, Brian had been using the number November the 1st in previous council meetings. That's my recollection.
Yeah.
I think you
But
got
this is actually a surprise to me, it'll be October 1st.
Do on that, because like I say, that would,
And that probably would give a little bit, us a little bit
How
more.
are we gonna, you say you're gonna put it on the back of the
I'm
water
going
bill
back to the
stuff?
bill, but I
Will
want,
that get to the owners though? A lot of
some
times
of
the water bill goes to
them,
the,
some of them, well, I'll put it
Yeah.
in the paper, put it on the website, I don't know. And then, like I said, that if we don't, the ones who don't respond or don't know about it, we send them a letter reminding them. And after that, they're late.
we have a lot of out-of-town owners that
We do.
are
Maybe
absentee.
some of those, we can look through, some of those we should just send
now
them.
people
Might
are,
look, yeah, I might look at what we can, the ones we can contact.
ones that owns apartment buildings, will they fall into this also where they have to register each apartment?
There's, no, they're the, off the top of my head, the wording allows for units to be registered like,
The multi-unit only has to register.
small, yeah.
Pay $5 to register all of them, but they still have to fill out, it's my understanding, they still have to fill out the form,
Yeah, there's
the
places
registration form. that they're
For
listed
multiple
on.
units, yeah.
This is only on rental properties, not on properties that's being sold under contract or anything. Before there's a confusion here.
Well, now, the clarification there is that there are people that are buying on contract that are not filed with the county.
Well, these are filed with the county.
The ones that are filed with the county would be an exception, would not
Right,
be.
because they're getting their taxes and
But
everything.
the ones that aren't filed would be considered a rental. We don't have any way to consider them any other way.
Yeah,
So
they're not filed,
if they're, they could be a contract with the owner, but, and the owner and the buyer, but if it's not filed with the county, we have no way to identify it's anything but a rental.
Recorded in the
Recorded,
office.
they're in the recorder's office.
Well, the problem is that's not what the ordinance says. It literally says anything that's under contract. In fact, it implies that anything with a mortgage on it, which represents at least 70% of all homes in New York City, would have to register.
It doesn't apply, that doesn't, no, that's, you're in the definitions.
I would suggest that you read.
I've read it, you're in the definitions. Definitions are not the ordinance. I know I've read those sections, and that's, I don't think,
Well, you just added that properties are excluded if they have been filed at the courthouse. It doesn't say that in there. It says if it's being purchased under contract. That's
But
what it
it's
says.
being purchased. But,
It's under
but
contract.
how, we'd have to have some proof of the contract. So I suppose that the argument could be that someone could bring up their legal contract, show it to us, but at that point, why is it not registered with the county and taking the tax advantage of it? I mean, I'm kind of out there hanging in the breeze on that a little bit, but
So you're talking about some sort of exemption.
we would, if it's under contract, that's fine, but we have to have, that argument can be made, but we still have to have some proof of that contract.
Yeah. Copy of the bill.
Yeah.
But my point is, it's not excluded. It's included in the registration process. Whether it's registered or not registered, it's included. You must register your home. If you're buying a home under contract, the way it currently reads, is that you would have to register with Jan. And that's one of the big objections.
Yeah,
But it's not- it's not really
anybody's
rental.
buying a house and takes it to a bank or anything is under contract.
Well,
Whether it's an individual,
yeah, but
selling it as a bank himself or the bank itself, it doesn't make any difference.
we're
As long as it's
talking-
registered with the county as being sold to that person and he's getting the
You're
taxes
just
in his
adding
name.
words to the ordinance that don't exist. I'm fine to exclude them. I'm happy. The less
Yeah.
people have to register, the better.
Right.
But that's not what it says.
Okay. Well, I don't have it in front of me, so I
I
can't
don't have it
quote
in
it.
front of me, but something was burned in my brain.
Back to this, oh,
She went to get
you going to 10-1 or 11-1? It can't be any later than 11-1.
Yeah.
This has probably been pushed back far enough.
Say 11-1.
Drop dead. Date.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion once she gets in here so she can record it. If she's coming back, just
I think she's going out the
to
door.
copies. Come on, hold music.
well, we need to have it clarified.
Brian, do you have anything that appears across the screen that says that? Pardon the interruption.
Go to commercial.
Good commercial.
They get a sponsor for delays.
So what are you gonna do?
I was waiting to make a motion until upon your
Back.
return so we
Okay.
can have it recorded. I was just moving to adopt ordinance number 2018-14 with the amendment of the date change from October 1st to November 1st, 2018. And passing this on the first reading.
We have a first, we have a second.
I'll second.
Jan, would you take roll call vote?
Bob Leahy,
Yes.
Jim Hubbard,
Yeah.
Tim Heiss.
Yes.
Chad Spence.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, but
Visitors.
I have another
Oh,
question.
excuse me?
If I put a notice on the back of a bill that they have to register by November 1st, they passed it the second time. So the bill goes out next week.
So is that next week?
Well, this week, actually.
Okay.
I can wait. I mean, I don't want to, hurry anything.
No, but that's a good point. And so you give them advance notice.
Trying.
And we've been talking about this, what seems like for eons, so it's not like this is trying to be new. So I would move to suspend the rule.
We have a first to have a motion to suspend the rules. We have a first, we have a second.
I'll second.
Jan, would you take a roll call vote?
Bob Leahy.
Yes.
Jim Hubbard.
Yes.
Tim Heiss.
Yes.
Chad Spence.
Yes.
Okay. Entertain a motion.
I will move that we adopt ordinance number 2018-14, which is the ordinance to amend to amending Title 15, Chapter 158 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Union City, Indiana on the second reading by title only with aforementioned said amendment.
We have a
I'll
first.
second.
Okay. We have a second. Jan, you can take the roll call vote.
Who did the second?
Jim. Jim did.
Bob Leahy?
Yes.
Jim Hufford?
Yes.
Tim Heiss?
Yes.
Chad Spence?
Yes.
Okay, visitors wishing to address the board, please stand and state your name. John?
Hi, my name's John Desmond. I reside at 1267 June Green Road in the city of Ohio. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about obligations of the landlords to register. The same ordinance talks about, as well as other ordinances, talk about the obligation of the city to do certain things. And I would just simply remind you that at this point, I'm not aware of any, and there certainly hasn't been any discussion, and I would like to be a part of those discussions. What the hell are you going to inspect? What is the criteria for the inspection? Certainly, you got to know what you're going to inspect. You got to know what the scope is. One of my big concerns is the freedoms enjoyed by my tenants, and there are people that they live differently than you and I, and so what exactly are you going to be inspecting? Broken windows, you can see those from the outside. Are you looking at plumbing issues, electrical issues, and so on? But what does the checklist look like? Because if you look at the inspection form that was used in Indianapolis, which actually is not being used at all, that was at least 72 different points of inspection. Next question is, who's going to do it? Do they already have the requisite training in there? There are exemptions in the ordinance for qualified professionals to look at properties. What are the criteria for the qualified inspectors to do that? Because I'd like to have to make the decision whether I want to use an outside agent or your agent, but I don't know who your agent is. I don't know how much training or any of that stuff they have. The other part of the ordinance, or one of them, and perhaps it was the this last planning document for Union City, talked about a cooperation between landlords and the city. And in that process, we talked about a database that we could go to the police and say, is Joe Smith a bad guy or a good guy? What's your recommendation, up or down? I don't know that any progress has been made in that respect. I think that's on you to do that. And then finally, the police department is supposed to conduct training. One of the ordinances, I think it's the drug ordinance, that forces us to kick people out of the house. The city's supposed to provide training. And I don't know that that's been done either. If it has been done, I wasn't notified. So those are the kinds of things I think you all need to get on. At least two of those things are in Toby's field. But in terms of the inspection, the inspector, and qualifications, and the list of stuff you're going to inspect, that needs to be sorted out. Thank you.
Thank you. Date of next city council meeting, Monday, September 10th, 2018, 6 p.m. Date of next Board of Works, Monday, September 10th, 2018 at 2 p.m. I'd entertain a motion for adjournment. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sorry. Didn't realize you were.
Mike Loomis, 931 West Oak Street, Union City, Indiana. Last night we had a dog that was abandoned for a couple days. It was starving, and maybe I didn't call the right people, because I started out with calling Swagger, because I thought he was the man to call. And they gave us to call Winchester. So we called Winchester, and we called Winchester, and we called Winchester. And they said, an officer's coming, an officer's coming. Well, 3 hours later, an officer's still coming. Well, I watched him go by the house a couple different times. He never did stop. So I called Dennis again, and he come picked him up. But he called Monty first, and Monty gave him the approval. Now, do we have somebody pick up the dogs or not. So if this ever happens again, but I do want to thank Monty and Dennis and for doing what they thought was right. But do I call Union City or do I call Winchester to have the officer?
Kobe, you addressed this in Board of Works today, so.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, we only have a part-time animal ordinance officer, and he just stepped down, which was like Thursday of last week. So up until today, there was no replacement for him. Second to that, with him being part-time, he wasn't always available on an on-call basis. So the way we had it set up was, yes, Winchester's animal control would come over and take that animal. The part where nobody showed up for 3 hours, I can show you call logs. He was busy.
Okay.
On several calls from last night, including CPS calls. Another one was a possession call. So one officer on duty at a time. It is harder. So it's an exception to the rule, I would say, because we generally do go pick up the animals as quickly as we can. This is the first time we've ever had an issue not being able to pick up an animal in a somewhat timely manner. So
I wasn't trying to cause problems.
oh, no problem. I'm just letting you know what's going on.
Right. No, we appreciate you bringing to our attention, because I mean, that's
What we've done, and again, this was last Thursday that I received notice that he was not going to be the animal control, is Officer Ronald Mott has picked up that duty as of today, and that should alleviate these type of problems. The other thing is that we're going to approach Winchester, because part of their issue is they don't want to be coming over here, but they don't mind housing the animals. With our local animal shelter, it's normally full. We have a lot of dogs loose, and she stays full quite a bit. You can't take them. We're only a temporary shelter with what we got built. So what we're going to try to do is we can take the animals over there. He's a no-kill there. So hopefully things work out that way there. But as far, we went, 3 days without an animal control, and that did cause an issue. But the 3-hour ordeal, one officer on duty, and back-to-back calls that take more than an hour long to do, it's not easy to get somebody there.
This may sound like minutia, but just for clarification, like dispatch, does that individual have visibility to what, like if one officer is only available at the moment, but yet that officer has other priorities that he has to attend to, does she have visibility to that so she can even inform the person she's on the phone with, we have an officer that will be going to help that he is.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
yes.
But we don't have that, do we?
I don't want to throw a stink on somebody else just to cover up something, because yes, that's an issue and has been an issue, but I don't know what dispatch talked to him about.
As I say, because that would make things a lot. It's just communication.
It's just around the corner. He'll be there in a few minutes.
Yeah, or he has several high priority calls that he has to attend to for public safety. Yeah, and if I hear that, I'm like, oh, okay, I understand. This is a dog versus someone, a person.
That is the first thing I checked, because I knew about this incident, and that's the first thing I checked when I got in this morning. And I knew he was on one call, because I called him that night. What are you doing? Why aren't you going to a dog call? And he was at the jail at the time.
Exactly.
Which told me he had been on a call already, and he had back-to-back calls. So, one's a CPS call, and that's, deals with children. That doesn't happen in minutes. And the other one's a drug call. That don't happen in minutes. So, sorry for the delay, but it was as quickly, and I appreciate what Swaggart did, but it's taken care of, hopefully. Like I said, that's the first issue we've ever had with, and you got to think too, animal control is a part-time thing. Yeah. It's not, we don't have a full-time animal control officer like Winchester or any other city does out there, and they could be at another job, and it's just hard to answer that. Yep.
Anybody else?
Well, that's not this one.
Then you close it.
Okay. Oh, I think I read off the dates already, so I'll entertain a moment.
A moment to-
No, no. Yeah, it's been a long
I'll take a moment and
Yeah.
motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is that what I did something?
No,
You guys need to-
I don't think so. Well, let's see. This one.
You guys make sure these sign.